All right, what up, everybody? This is my chili recipe. I've been working on it for a while, and I think it's finally to the point where it's ready to share with people. So I got in the background going right here. This is me prepping my vegetables. I made my prep pretty easy for this one. I used pre-diced onions, and I used pre-diced garlic, and I used a couple jars of tomatoes as well instead of using all fresh tomatoes. So I did make it a little bit easy on myself, but you're gonna go ahead and wanna get your prep out of the way immediately. I did about 1.5 cups of bell peppers. And then when I add in my peppers, which is normally a Serrano and a jalapeno, but I didn't have a Serrano, so it was just 2 jalapenos today. It ends up being about 2 cups total worth of peppers. Then I also use usually about 1/2 of an onion. In this case, I just finished off the bag that I had. And then I use a couple cloves of garlic, in this case about a tablespoon worth. And that's pretty much it for the prepping of the vegetables. I did use 1 fresh Roma tomato as well, in addition to the 2 cans of roasted tomatoes. If you wanted to use all fresh tomatoes, you definitely could. I would recommend throwing them under the broiler so that they get roasted. Just adds a little bit more flavor. I kind of went easy with this one. I cut my jalapeno with a glove because I've had spicy fingers one too many times. But yeah, this chili is pretty healthy. A lot of it's with like protein in mind, and then also, like I said, being healthy. So there's not a lot of bad stuff in this. We're gonna go ahead and put our 2 cups total worth of peppers in here with a little bit of olive oil. And we're also gonna add in our onions and garlic at this point. This is how we get started. We're gonna let this cook for a little bit, start to simmer, that kind of a thing, and then we will toss in our protein in just a minute, give that a good mix. I didn't use as much onion as I normally would. That's probably closer to 1/4 of an onion versus 1/3 or 1/2. So I do add in some onion powder later. But I use 85-15 ground beef, and then I believe the chicken is 92-8. So they're both pretty lean. This makes it so you don't have to drain the grease out. If you have a greasier or a fattier meat content protein, then I would probably drain some of this out. But because my stuff is pretty lean, I kind of just throw it all in the pot and let it go. I have this nice little meat masher. So while that continues to cook, I'm going to go ahead and open up my cans. I use 4 cans of beans. In this particular instance, I use a can of kidney, a can of Great White Northern, a can of black, and a can of chili. If you don't like one of those beans, or you don't have all 4 of those beans available to you, the biggest thing is just use 4 cans of beans, whatever beans you like. Here I am cracking open my 2 cans of diced fire roasted tomatoes, like I mentioned earlier. We're gonna drain the beans. We're not gonna drain the tomatoes. That tomato juice is gonna be good. I'm also opening up 2 cans of chipotle sauce, which is basically just blended up peppers. This is kind of my secret ingredient, other than, well, I guess it is my secret ingredient, but it's not a secret. My chili is mostly influenced by Hawaiian chili, Mexican food in general. My girlfriend's Latina, so that she influences me quite a bit, and then also my mother's chili. But Hawaiian chili is my biggest influence, so we are going to be cooking this chili with rice today. Here I am adding my seasonings. Going to be some oregano, a lot of chili powder, some cayenne, some cumin, and then onion powder. I added some more chili powder here just because I didn't think it was enough. I'm going to not really give you measurements on that. It's just kind of to taste. I just added in my tomato paste here. And then as you can see on the bottom there's pretty much no juice left. So I let all that water cook off from the vegetables and from the meat, and then I added in the tomato paste, let that simmer for just a little bit, and then I add in my chipotle cans. At this point, it's going to look kind of like a sloppy Joe mix almost, but don't worry, it's going to come together. Once that cooks for a little bit with just the chipotle and the tomato paste, we're going to add in 2 cups of beef broth. If you don't have beef broth, you could just use water or chicken broth or something. But I like the beef broth. It adds a little bit of protein, adds a little bit of flavor. Yeah, 2 cups of beef broth. I ended up adding in a 1/3 cup later, and then I had to let it simmer off because it was a little bit too runny. So maybe just add the 2 cups, but I did technically add a 1/3 cup. I'm going to add in my tomato at this point, as well as my tomato cans. And then I'm going to also add in my beans. I'm not going to list off the types again because you heard me earlier, but 4 types of beans. Doesn't have to be 4 types of beans, any type of bean that you want. Give that a good mix. At this point, my pot was looking pretty full, so make sure you use a big pot. This does make quite a bit of food. It would definitely feed a large family, or what I do is I just make it last for the whole week. So here I am making my rice. I did 2 cups of jasmine rice, wash that a couple times, throw it in a pot with some olive oil, and then I did 1/2 beef broth, 1/2 water. In this case, 3 cups of liquid total, but if you used less or more rice, obviously adjust your liquid. And then we're gonna add in our vegetables. I do 2 cups of frozen peas and carrots, an entire bag of corn, or 1.5 cans if you're doing that. Let that simmer with the lid on for about 30 minutes, and then it should be ready to go. Serve it with a scoop of Greek yogurt on top for a little bit more protein. And yeah, full recipe is gonna be down below if this was hard to follow.